Welcome everyone to today's video on faith and social justice. I'm thrilled you're here because we're about to embark on a journey that dives deep into how faith has not only shaped individual lives, but also transformed communities and influenced major social movements throughout history. Whether you come from a background of spirituality or activism, today's discussion will resonate with you, challenging you to reflect on how personal beliefs can spur collective action. In today's world, where debates about morality, ethics, and human rights are at the forefront of public discourse, the intersection between faith and social justice has never been more significant. We will explore the historical roots of how religious beliefs have driven social change, examine theological principles that advocate for justice, and see how faith communities continue to be a powerful force for good in the modern era. I'll also be sharing examples of pivotal moments where faith leaders played a crucial role in advocating for marginalized communities and inspiring movements that reshape society. Before we dive into our 8 key topics, I want to take a moment to invite you to subscribe to the channel. If you're passionate about understanding the deeper connections between spirituality and activism, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you won't miss any future videos on topics that matter. Your support helps this community grow and fuels more insightful conversations around the issues that affect us all. As we begin, remember that the narrative of faith and social justice is complex and layered. We're not only talking about doctrines or historical events, but also about the human spirit, the drive to stand up for what's right even in the face of overwhelming odds. Throughout this video, I'll be asking you to consider your own views and the impact that your faith or your respect for others' beliefs might have on driving positive change in society. So, get comfortable, open your mind, and let's set the stage for a thought-provoking exploration. We'll start by looking back at the origins of how faith has intertwined with the fight for justice, then move through theological foundations, significant movements, and the challenges that persist today. By the end, you'll have a broader understanding of the transformative power that faith can wield in the realm of social justice. And perhaps you'll be inspired to join the movement for change. Let's begin our exploration with our first topic. Faith and social justice have been intertwined since ancient times. Early religious traditions often provided a moral framework that guided the behavior of entire communities. In many cultures, religious leaders not only served as spiritual guides, but also as advocates for fairness and equity. Ancient texts and scriptures, whether from Eastern philosophies or Western traditions, frequently emphasize the importance of compassion, charity, and justice. For example, many Judeo-Christian scriptures speak to the need to care for the stranger, the poor, and the oppressed. This was not merely a matter of ritual piety, but a call to action, a reminder that faith should compel believers to actively seek justice. Similarly, Eastern traditions such as Buddhism and Hinduism advocate for compassion and the intrinsic worth of every individual, setting the stage for social practices aimed at reducing suffering and promoting equity. Historically, religious institutions have played a pivotal role during times of social upheaval. They have often been the only organized platforms that could mobilize large groups of people under a common cause. Whether it was the monastic communities in medieval Europe or the reform movements during the Enlightenment, faith-based groups have long been at the forefront of social advocacy. Their commitment to serving the marginalized has frequently pushed societies toward reform and progress. In this context, faith was not a passive set of beliefs, but a catalyst for social change. When communities were challenged by injustice, whether in the form of economic disparity, discrimination, or political oppression, religious teachings provided the ethical backbone for resistance and reform. In many ways, the historical narrative of social justice is inseparable from the stories of those who dared to dream of a more equitable world, drawing strength from their beliefs to forge paths toward liberation and human dignity. As we reflect on these origins, it becomes clear that the values of faith and the principles of social justice have been mutually reinforcing over centuries. This historical perspective sets the stage for understanding how deep-rooted these ideals are and how they continue to inspire modern movements for change. At the heart of every major world religion lies a set of core principles that underscore the inherent dignity of every person. These theological foundations have laid the groundwork for what we now understand as social justice. In many religious traditions, justice is not simply a societal construct, but a divine mandate. Sacred texts and doctrines often provide explicit guidance on how believers are to treat others, emphasizing fairness, compassion, and responsibility. In Christianity, for instance, the concept of agape or unconditional love is fundamental. This love is not reserved for those who are already fortunate, but extends to everyone, including the poor, the marginalized, and the oppressed. Similarly, in Islam, the notion of ummah, community, stresses the importance of mutual care and social solidarity. The Quran and Hadith encourage believers to seek justice and to challenge systems that perpetuate inequality. Judaism's prophetic tradition is another powerful example. The Hebrew prophets spoke passionately against injustice, urging society to correct its wrongs and to care for the less fortunate. Their messages resonate even today, reminding us that the pursuit of justice is a sacred duty. In Eastern religions, such as Buddhism, the idea of right action within the Noble Eightfold Path emphasizes ethical conduct that fosters social harmony and reduces suffering. The theological arguments for social justice are not merely abstract ideals. They have inspired countless believers to action. When religious communities rally around these principles, they transform ethical imperatives into tangible efforts to alleviate poverty, challenge discrimination, and promote human rights. This is where doctrine meets the real world, in acts of service, protest, and community organizing that directly confront societal imbalances. Moreover, modern theologians have built on these ancient traditions to address contemporary issues. They have reinterpreted sacred texts in light of new social realities, urging their communities to embrace causes like racial equality, environmental justice, and economic fairness. The dialogue between traditional beliefs and modern challenges enriches both realms, creating a dynamic space where faith not only informs but also evolves in response to the pressing needs of our times. As we examine these theological foundations, we recognize that faith can provide both the moral impetus and the practical tools needed to pursue a just society. These sacred principles continue to shape not only personal lives, but also collective actions aimed at transforming the social landscape. Throughout history, many influential social movements have been ignited by the spirit of faith. These movements, often led by charismatic religious figures, have served as a powerful reminder that the pursuit of justice is a fundamental human calling. From the civil rights movement in the United States to liberation theology in Latin America, the voices of faith have been at the forefront of the struggle against injustice. One of the most emblematic examples is the American civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s. Leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. drew deeply on their religious convictions to advocate for equality and justice. King's speeches were imbued with biblical references and a profound sense of moral urgency, linking the struggle for civil rights to a larger, divine mandate for social justice. His leadership demonstrated how faith can empower individuals to challenge entrenched systems of discrimination and to envision a society where every person is treated with dignity. In Latin America, liberation theology emerged as a potent force for social change during the 1960s and 1970s. Rooted in the belief that God's preferential option is for the poor, this movement inspired clergy and laypeople alike to take up the cause of the oppressed. Churches became sanctuaries for the marginalized, serving as centers for education, organizing, and resistance against authoritarian regimes. The impact of liberation theology was felt far beyond the church walls. It influenced political policies and sparked broader debates about the role of faith in fostering social equality. Similarly, faith-based initiatives in other parts of the world have tackled issues ranging from poverty to environmental degradation. In many communities, local churches, mosques, and temples have organized food drives, health clinics, and educational programs aimed at uplifting disadvantaged groups. These grassroots efforts highlight the tangible ways in which faith can translate into action. They remind us that while theology provides the moral blueprint, it is the everyday acts of compassion and service that ultimately build a more just society. These historical examples underscore the fact that faith is not static. It evolves, adapts, and responds to the challenges of its time. The social movements driven by religious conviction reveal a recurring theme: that the desire for justice is inherent in the human spirit, and that faith can be a catalyst for change even in the most challenging circumstances. The intersection of religion, politics, and social justice is a dynamic arena where moral values and public policy often collide. In many societies, religious institutions have not only provided spiritual guidance, but have also become key players in political advocacy. This dual role sometimes leads to a complex interplay where faith informs political ideologies and political circumstances, in turn, shape religious practices. Religious leaders and institutions frequently find themselves at the crossroads of these debates. On one hand, they advocate for policies that uphold the dignity and rights of every individual. On the other, they must navigate the challenging landscape of political partisanship, where their actions are often scrutinized for alignment with broader ideological agendas. This balancing act requires not only deep convictions, but also a keen understanding of the socio-political context. For example, in many Western countries, religious organizations have historically taken stances on issues such as poverty, healthcare, and immigration, areas that directly affect social justice. These stances are often informed by sacred texts and long-held ethical principles. However, when these organizations step into the political arena, their advocacy can sometimes spark controversy, raising questions about the appropriate role of religion in public life. In other parts of the world, the relationship between faith and politics is even more intertwined. In some nations, religious laws and secular laws coexist in a delicate equilibrium. Here, debates over social justice often center around how to reconcile traditional religious values with the demands of modern democratic governance. The challenge is to create a society where both faith and political institutions work together to foster fairness and inclusion, rather than allowing one to dominate or marginalize the other. This intersection is a testament to the enduring influence of faith on public life. It reveals that the call for social justice is not confined to private belief, but extends into the public sphere, influencing laws, policies, and societal norms. As we continue to navigate these complex interactions, it is crucial to remember that the ultimate goal remains the same: to create a society where every individual can experience dignity, equality, and respect. If you're enjoying our discussion so far, please hit the like button and share this video with anyone who believes in the power of faith to drive social change. Faith communities have always been more than just places of worship. They are hubs of community activism and advocacy. Whether through organized efforts or spontaneous acts of charity, these communities have a long-standing tradition of stepping up to address social issues. In many cases, their religious commitment becomes a rallying cry for broader social change. Across the globe, congregations are mobilizing to address a range of challenges from homelessness and hunger to racial injustice and environmental sustainability. Community centers associated with faith organizations often serve as safe spaces where individuals can come together, share their struggles, and work collaboratively toward solutions. In these environments, the collective spirit of the group reinforces the idea that change is possible when people unite under a shared moral purpose. Religious leaders play an integral role in these initiatives. By interpreting sacred texts in ways that emphasize social responsibility, they inspire their communities to take action. Whether it's organizing peaceful protests, providing resources to those in need, or advocating for policy reforms, these leaders set examples of courage and compassion. Their influence is often felt far beyond their immediate circles, sparking broader movements that challenge systemic injustices and push for meaningful reforms. Furthermore, Many interfaith collaborations have emerged in recent years, underscoring that the pursuit of justice is a universal value. These alliances bring together people from diverse religious backgrounds, each contributing their unique perspectives and strengths to address common challenges. In doing so, they demonstrate that faith, when used as a tool for advocacy, can bridge differences and build solidarity among communities. The role of faith communities in advocacy is a reminder that every act of service, no matter how small, contributes to the larger tapestry of social justice. When individuals come together to support one another, they embody the essence of what it means to live out one's faith, a commitment to the well-being of all. While the intersection of faith and social justice has produced transformative change, it is not without its challenges and criticisms. Balancing deep-seated beliefs with evolving social norms can sometimes lead to internal conflicts within communities and external scrutiny from broader society. Navigating these challenges requires not only steadfast conviction, but also a willingness to engage in honest self-reflection and dialogue. One of the primary criticisms faced by faith-based social justice initiatives is the potential for exclusion. Critics argue that when religious groups lead social movements, they might inadvertently alienate those who do not share the same spiritual framework. This tension can lead to debates over whether social justice should be rooted in religious doctrine or if it should adopt a more secular, inclusive approach that embraces diversity in belief systems. Another challenge is the risk of political polarization. When religious institutions become politically active, they sometimes face accusations of favoring particular ideologies over a neutral stance. This can complicate their mission of serving all members of society, as political affiliations may overshadow the underlying message of universal compassion and fairness. The delicate balance between being a moral guide and a political influencer is one that faith communities continue to navigate in today's increasingly divided world. Moreover, internal conflicts can arise when interpretations of religious texts differ significantly among community members. Such differences can lead to heated debates about what constitutes true justice and how best to achieve it. These disagreements, while challenging, also highlight the diversity of thought within religious traditions and the ongoing evolution of how these traditions interact with modern social issues. Despite these criticisms, many faith communities are actively working to address these challenges. By embracing dialogue, fostering interfaith collaborations, and adopting inclusive practices, they strive to ensure that their advocacy remains accessible and relevant to everyone. In doing so, they demonstrate that while the path of social justice may be fraught with obstacles, it is also rich with opportunities for growth, understanding, and transformation. The dynamic relationship between faith and social justice is not confined to any one region. It is a global phenomenon that manifests differently depending on cultural, historical, and socio-political contexts. Around the world, diverse religious traditions inform unique approaches to social justice, reflecting both shared values and distinct regional challenges. In parts of Africa, for instance, faith communities have long been instrumental in addressing issues related to poverty, conflict, and health crises. Churches, mosques, and traditional spiritual centers often serve as community hubs where people find support and mobilize collective action. In these regions, the message of social justice is interwoven with cultural practices and local narratives, creating a powerful, localized movement for change. In Asia, the interplay between ancient spiritual traditions and modern social issues has given rise to innovative forms of advocacy. In countries like India, where a multitude of faiths coexist, religious teachings on compassion and duty inspire grassroots movements aimed at improving the lives of those in disadvantaged communities. From community health initiatives to education programs, faith-based organizations are making significant contributions to social justice in ways that are both culturally resonant and deeply impactful. Europe and North America offer their own examples, where long-standing religious institutions have sometimes been challenged to adapt to more progressive social values. Here, The conversation often revolves around how to reconcile traditional beliefs with the demands of modern multicultural societies. Despite these challenges, many faith communities continue to advocate for issues such as refugee rights, environmental protection, and economic justice, proving that the quest for a fairer society is a shared human endeavor. These global perspectives illustrate that while the expression of faith and social justice may vary, the underlying call for dignity, compassion, and equity remains universal. By learning from one another's experiences and embracing a truly global dialogue, communities can work together to address injustices that transcend national and cultural boundaries. As we stand at the crossroads of tradition and modernity, the future of faith and social justice is poised for transformative change. Emerging trends in technology, communication, and global connectivity are reshaping how communities engage with these timeless principles. In the coming years, we can expect to see an even greater integration of faith-based values with innovative approaches to advocacy and social change. Digital platforms have democratized the way information is shared, enabling faith communities to spread messages of justice far beyond the confines of their local congregations. Social media, online forums, and live-streamed events are creating virtual spaces where people from diverse backgrounds can come together, exchange ideas, and mobilize for causes that matter. This digital revolution is not only amplifying voices that have long been marginalized, but also fostering new forms of activism that blend tradition with modern technology. Additionally, interfaith collaborations are likely to become even more central to the fight for social justice. As global challenges such as climate change, economic inequality, and political instability continue to intensify, the need for a united, compassionate response has never been more critical. By bridging differences and building alliances, diverse faith communities can harness their collective power to address these complex issues in innovative ways. We are also witnessing a renewed emphasis on education and awareness. More than ever, faith leaders and community organizers are investing in programs that educate the public about the historical and ethical dimensions of social justice. This educational push not only helps demystify the role of faith in advocating for change, but also empowers individuals to become active participants in building a more equitable future. Looking forward, the fusion of ancient wisdom with modern strategies promises to open up new avenues for social transformation. As traditional boundaries blur and new partnerships form, the legacy of faith-inspired activism is set to evolve into a global movement that champions both spiritual values and human rights. As we wrap up today's deep dive into faith and social justice, it's clear that the journey toward a more equitable world is both complex and inspiring. We've explored the historical roots that connect sacred teachings with the pursuit of justice, examined theological foundations that urge us to care for one another, and witnessed how faith has fueled some of the most transformative social movements in history. From grassroots advocacy to global collaborations, the influence of faith on social justice continues to evolve, reminding us that the quest for fairness is as relevant today as it has ever been. Throughout our discussion, we've seen that while the relationship between faith and social justice can be challenging, it also holds the potential for immense positive change. The power of belief, when combined with action, creates a force that can uplift communities, drive political reform, and inspire future generations. Whether you identify as deeply spiritual, a passionate activist, or simply someone who cares about creating a better world, there's something in this narrative for all of us. Before we end, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this fascinating subject. What are your experiences with faith-inspired activism? How do you see the future of social justice in your community? Drop your thoughts and comments below. I read every comment, and your insights help shape future discussions on this channel. Thank you for taking the time to join me on this exploration. If you found today's video engaging and thought-provoking, please subscribe if you haven't already, and remember to leave a comment with your reflections. Let's continue this conversation and work together toward a world where compassion, justice, and faith guide our every step. Until next time, keep believing in the power of change and stay inspired.